The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone. Well, it seems that the emotions you put out, love, compassion, and anger especially, may have a much larger effect than you could ever expect, and even a ripple effect. The physiological and psychological effects of compassion and anger. Anger produced a significant increase in total mood disturbance and heart rate. Positive emotion, on the other hand, produced significant increase in SIGA, immune globulin A levels in saliva. The reason they did this study was self-induction techniques may therefore be useful in minimizing the immunosuppressive effects of negative emotions, which they've studied quite a lot and already know that being in negative emotional states will have a negative effect on your immune system. Sorry about the noise, they're drilling. They're drilling in the next apartment, but I keep getting this image in my mind of some rogue dentist going into someone's mouth with a giant drill. Talk about negative emotions. Okay, so that was already well documented, but then in the 90s, the Army decided to take this further to see whether cells not only respond to emotions while in the host, but also when they've been removed from the host. So in 1993, they did a study which was reported in the journal Advances. They took DNA from a person's mouth and put it in a dish, I guess, and then they sent the person in another room and showed them videos of things that would stir up strong emotions, like maybe wartime footage. And here's what they found. When the donor experienced emotional peaks and dips, his cells and DNA showed a powerful electrical response at the same instant in time. Although distances measured in hundreds of feet separated the donor and the samples, the DNA acted as if it was still physically connected to the body. The question is why? Now, I, of course, have no answer to that question, but I do have something else for you which is related, which is the work of Cleve Baxter. The guy was an expert in a polygraph machine, and he decided to do an experiment to see whether plants have some kind of emotional reaction. So he put the plant on the lie detector and then threatened to burn one of its leaves. And before he could even get to the plant to burn it, he saw that there was a reaction on the polygraph machine. The plant was having an emotional reaction. So he performed a number of experiments like this on plants and also yogurt cells. Yeah, I know Mythbusters went and tried to debunk this. However, they used eggs, and what Baxter had shown was that the plants would respond to like a really strong negative intention. In Mythbusters, they just threw eggs and smashed them. I don't think there could have been that much emotional charge to smashing eggs, so it may be kind of bunk debunking. So after this, Baxter continued to do more experiments. Here's where it gets interesting, and it ties in with the stuff about the Army. Because what Baxter did was, he did a similar thing where he took either DNA swabs from the mouth, or he used also sperm samples, that was one of them, and he had the original donor 300 miles away experience emotion, and it was found that the cells react at a great distance. In one experiment, the donor was assigned to watch a scary movie. Amazingly, the sperm cells in the lab 300 miles from the donor reacted with the fear hyperstimulated response instantaneously as the donor responded in horror to the movie. Okay, I do realize that I just read this on the internet, but Cleve Baxter is well known, and I mean to the point where Mythbusters tried to debunk it. I looked for other sources. I did find this, A Day in the Lab with Cleve Baxter, where it says Cleve had years ago experimented with red blood cells and with sperm cells and had gotten readings from them, but they were chaotic and would not live all that long outside the body. And it goes on to describe an experiment where they did this with leukocytes from the mouth, from a lady who was a donor, and watched the cells react as she responded emotionally to a phone call with her daughter, where the daughter was in crisis. And I particularly find it's interesting that they mentioned sperm cells. In my last video, I was talking about how you may incorporate DNA or chromosomes and cells from not only your own unborn children, but maybe possibly even your sexual partners. So if you let's just entertain this hypothesis that you take in particles from your sexual partners. And now if you add to this information that these particles, these cells, or parts of cells may react to now your former partner's emotions, Now imagine that effect that could have on you on a sort of vibrational level. If you, let's say you have an ex, now you've got his cells in your body, and those cells react to his states of emotion. What if he's a really negative person? What if he goes through some kind of horrible crisis and has a lot of negative emotions? Will that affect you? I don't know, but it's something to think about. Okay, here's another thing. Now, you may have heard of Dr. Emoto's water experiment, the power of thoughts, where he would take water and put these droplets of water in the lab and freeze them so that they would crystallize while under the effect of intense emotions which were being directed at them. And depending on what kind of emotion was directed at the water, it would freeze into a different kind of shape. Like a very positive emotion like I love you would give a beautiful symmetrical crystal, whereas saying something like you make me sick would give a kind of chaotic mess. Now, it did occur to me that we are made up of a lot of water. I mean, I've heard we're made of like 98% water. Is that possible? I guess the rest is carbon and a little bit of this and that. But anyway, we do contain a lot of water. So now if you kind of put together the fact that our emotions have a direct influence on our own cells and even our own cells that have been removed, and on water, then it's possible that someone else's cells who are now in you will respond to the emotions of the original donor. And it's also possible that the emotions that we direct towards each other will affect us on this level just by virtue of the fact that we're made up of a lot of water, which is very responsive to emotions. I don't think it's so far-fetched to say that negative people are repellent. But I mean, not just on a physical level, as in, that guy's such a dark cloud, I don't want to deal with him. But even on maybe like a metaphysical level, which is possibly explained by some of this stuff I just went over. And here's something that's really interesting, that I think that the Bible touches on this. In Matthew 22 to 28, this is where Jesus talks about that if you're angry with someone, it's like if you committed murder, or if you lust after her, when you look at her with lust, it's like you committed adultery. It's the same as if you had actually done it. Well, it's not the same from a physical, practical point of view because you didn't actually do it. Or is it? Or is it that maybe on another level, your intentions are so powerful, your emotions, thoughts, and intentions are so powerful that they will have this negative ripple effect around you. I could see how on a certain level, it is possible that this is very, very powerful. And that's why Jesus warns us very strongly against harboring angry, negative feelings against someone or saying, you fool, like you loser. I've lost all compassion for you. So leave me your comments, and thanks for listening to me. Thanks for giving me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.